Have you ever experienced something so crippling in your life that has made you feel broken? I have. Are you someone who has a giving heart but is struggling to feel good themselves? Are you consistently putting your needs aside to take care of everyone else? If so, you're not alone. Giving starts with giving to yourself so that you are able to give of yourself to other people. Isn't it time you took back control and discovered what makes you tick? Join me in my journey and find out how you can feel better about yourself, live your best life, and share that with others. Thinking of yourself, it doesn't make you selfish, it makes you brave. I'm Nelia, and this is the Giving Starts With You podcast. If you're looking for clarity on your passion, sign up for my free 5-day email challenge today on my website at www.neliahut.com. That's www.neliahutt.com to sign up now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Giving Starts With You podcast. I'm your host, Nelia Hutt. Today, I've met another incredible human being. His name is Roger Williams. Welcome to the show. How are you, Roger?
No, I'm great. A little tired, working on different time zones, but besides that, I'm doing well.
Yes, thank you. I'm in Canada, and it is 6:30 p.m. here, and Roger's in Italy, and it's midnight. So I appreciate him coming on today for sure. So once I introduce you guys to him, you'll know exactly why I wanted him on the show. So Roger Williams, he's a writer, a podcaster, an adventurer, and chief crosser offer of his bucket list. After more than 30 years, working in the youth development and teaching field, a year in quarantine, and 2 heart attacks, Roger embarked on an adult gap year to prioritize a life in which he is known not by his professional work, but by the way he lives his life and the people he grows relationships with, which I love. Now he is traveling around the world, hence he's in Italy talking to me at midnight, and he's crossing off items on his bucket list and inspiring other people to do the same. So Roger, I'm inspired. So
Good.
you're doing it. You're doing it. I'm so glad that you took the time today to come on here and talk to us. You know, there's so many fascinating things about this topic today. So yeah. Okay, so I've heard, we've all heard about this bucket list thing idea, and how did you even get interested? Like, how did this all begin with you? I know. Oh, and he's also, so the podcast, his podcast is called Crossing It Off Podcast, and I have to mention that right off the top because it sounds amazing.
Thanks. So yeah, I think with like a lot of people, I was sitting at home during quarantine and had a heart attack, and just kind of after that was thinking to myself, what am I doing? What why am I here? What am I doing? And so for me, a big part of that had to come down to where I found my self-worth. And so often we find our self-worth in what we do to sell our labor, right? We all have labor that we sell to somebody or something, some entity. And my self-worth was very much caught up in that. And it was very difficult, especially being from the United States, where if someone asks you what you do, you say, I do this and I do it for this person, right? I'm a software engineer and I do that for Microsoft or whatever it is. That's the first thing we say. And I really started taking a hard look at that and going, is that really what I want to be known for? And part of the issue for me is that as a teacher, as an educator, with so many other professions the same way, we're almost guilted into doing our jobs. We're told that our value lies in what we do, and that we should be grateful and thankful that we get to do this job, right? I get to help students go on to college. I get to help students become productive adults. That I should find myself worth in that. Do it for the kids. And so I really found myself giving more than my 40 or 50, right? I talk about we all have 165 hours in a week, right? No more, no less, 165 or whatever it is. Yeah, 165. And so if we sell 40 or 50 of those and we sleep for 45, you've still got close to 70, 80 hours a week. And if you don't have good boundaries with your work, like I didn't, you would be working, you know, they don't really call it work, but if I'm so tired when I go home at the end of the day, that all I can do is watch TV, that's eating into my time. If I'm so exhausted mentally from all the challenges that my day faced, I can't interact with my partner or I can't interact with my friends like I want to. And so I think there's this big lie going around us that's being pushed by corporations and institutions that say, you need work-life balance. We want you to have work-life balance. Everybody needs to have work-life balance.
Yes.
And the bottom line is that I sold you 40. And there's no way that that 40 balances out to my 70 rate. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist, so I mean, there probably may be some math out there that it does, but for me, there is no work-life balance. There
Mm.
should be work-life boundaries, but corporation institutions are probably the last entities that want to promote that, because then they'll lose out from all the extra work that we do mentally, physically, all those things.
Yeah, and who doesn't want that? Like, I mean, they'd have no employees, right? Like,
Right. Yeah.
that's
Well, I
why.
mean, they could have boundaries. I mean, you could set boundaries, right? I worked in youth work for a long time, and I was in San Diego when the push to talk phones. Does anybody remember the
Oh,
push to talk phones? And, and there's a guy in our office that he's like, everybody in the office needs to have one of these. I'm like, no, I don't. You know, no one needs to have that much access to me, right? Instantaneous access. I mean, a text is bad enough, but like instantaneous access to be able to just talk to me randomly, you don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, no, you don't. We have to have boundaries, right? And we just don't do that in Western culture. We just don't make those boundaries real. And because I think we're fearful of, well, if I don't do this extra piece, or if I don't put in this extra time, or if I don't, completely kill myself in my job, then somebody else is going to take it, or somebody else is going to get the promotion or whatever. And the reality is, if you really look hard, that never really happens, right? I mean, never, it's
okay.
just,
Yes.
yeah, it's this myth that we think that, I got to work harder than the next person because I might lose my job, or they get the promotion and
Yeah.
I don't.
And working hard doesn't mean you have to sacrifice all the rest of your life, you know?
You're right. You
Yeah.
can put in, yeah, you can put in the 40 hours, put in a good 40 hours, and that should be enough, right? So my big thing is, after my heart attack, I was in lockdown, and I'm just looking at myself, and I'm like, I want to be known for more than what I do. I want to be known for how I live my life and how I integrate other people into that. And so I went to all my social media accounts, and I changed my job to being the HeadCrosser Offer on my bucket list. Um, I had one for a long time in my head. I think a lot of people do. Like, they have like, oh, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. That'd be fun. But until you like really write it down and see it on paper, or see it on the screen, or whatever you're going to do, it needs to have space. It needs to have like real space, not just floating around in your head. But once you put it down on paper, it's just like, it makes it more urgent. And so for me, the first thing I wanted to do when I looked at that bucket list was, I needed to do something big, right? I needed to do something really big, because I've been a procrastinator in the past. I've not followed through on things. I'm like, I'm going to do something really big, so then I'll get this jump started. So I did the Camino de Santiago, which is a 790 kilometer trek across northern Spain. And that took me about 32 days or whatever it was. And I did that in the middle of the pandemic, right? Every morning I would wake up and go, is Europe going to open up to me? Are there going to be hotels available? Are restaurants going to be open? And every day I just had to tell myself, nope, whatever it is, whatever it takes, whatever.
That's part of the thrill, though, isn't it? Is not
Yeah.
having it so planned. Like, there is some worry in there, am I going to be able to finish this thing with everything
Yeah.
closed? But that's a bit of
Yeah.
the thrill of it, right? Too.
Yeah, it did kind of put some excitement into it, especially after I bought my plane ticket and equipment. It's like, okay, I've spent some money now, so this better happen. But yeah, it was just a matter of, going on faith, going, okay, whatever I need to do to make this happen, I'm going to do it.
Hmm. So you talked a bit about why you created the list. Now we just
Mhm.
got to figure out what the heck is on that list. But before we go there, there
Uh-huh.
are many of us who, even though we love our jobs, like there are people who are
Mhm.
doing meaningful
Sure.
work and who love their jobs. It's not just about people hating their work. But
Right.
life is so much more than that. It
Yeah.
is. There's so many students that between high school and college, or college and university, or they take that year, or they take that gap trip. And who's to say, because we turn 19 or 21, and we have jobs, and then we have families, and we have education, and then we've got all these things going on, that's all there is. That's so sad to me. That is so sad that people have this, step one, step two, step three, and then you die and that's it. I love people that challenge that, right? Challenge the schedule. And that's why it's so exciting to me. So I love that we're talking about this.
Yeah. It's amazing. A lot of people don't know this, but since 1975, Harvard has been sending a letter to every incoming freshman that says, if you want to take a gap year, we will hold your acceptance.
Really?
Yes, every
I
student that's gone to
respect that
Harvard
so
since
much.
since 1975, and yet in this country we don't, in the U.S. and probably Canada too, we don't look at the gap year as a thing that's really as important
Do
of a
it.
ritual as it can be. Yeah, because it's not. A lot of students that I worked with, they didn't know what they wanted to do. They didn't, they go to college and they have to figure it out while they're at college, and so but we tell everybody it's like, the culture, at least in the States, is that you get good grades so you can go to a good school, so you can get a good job, so you can buy stuff. And
Never have
that's
time to use it.
right. It's like that's what it's all about. I have a running argument with my partner about buying a house, and I'm just like, I don't want to buy a house. It's not because I don't. I can invest the money someplace else, but two, I don't want to I don't want to be house poor. I don't want to be house chore poor time wise. There's so much that goes into owning a home that it's just like it zaps everything from you. And so I really try to tell younger people, now's the time when you're going to decide how the rest of your life is going to go,
Uh-huh.
just
Yes.
like you were saying. And so how are you structuring your life right now so that experiences can be more important than stuff?
Hmm.
And that's just so counterculture to what we try to do and what society is telling us to do. And it's important. A lot of people say, well, don't call it a bucket list because then you're focusing on your
Death.
death. I'm okay. You want to call it a bucket list, that's fine by me. You want to call it a life goal list or whatever you want to call it, it really doesn't matter to me. I really don't care. I'm
I
not like,
call it the point where you start to really live.
yeah, yeah, your life list or living list, or I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but just figure out how do you do those things that excite you, that bring you joy, right? Not that, like you said, not that work can't bring you joy, but there's so much outside of that, those hours that you sell, to be able to have more joy in your life. And that's really what I'm trying to promote to people is, how do you figure out how to bring joy into your life through experiences and doing stuff? And
Mhm.
we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and you know bucket list is your bucket list. I can't tell anybody what to put on their bucket list because I don't want anybody judging mine, right? So I just crossed off getting knuckle tattoos, and that's not for everybody. I
Let's
get
see. Let's
it.
see. I want to see them. Cool. I love it.
Do no harm. So so um so yeah, I mean, not everyone's gonna put, I don't recommend putting knuckle tattoos on your list if it's not your thing. That's fine. So just figure out what is, right? And you and I were talking about, um just I spent a lot of money to go on the Camino, right? I spent 5 grand or 6 grand, whatever it was, and 32 days of vacation. And I had to put out a lot. But I know I have a friend that just has a bucket list with learning recipes on it.
Mm,
Like they want to learn how to cook Thai food. That's like their passion, is they want to learn how to cook Thai food. So it's like, okay, great. Then which one's your favorite recipe? Let's do that one, right? Or just
absolutely.
start somewhere. It doesn't have to be these grand, crazy things, like I'm experiencing right now. It's you can choose things that, even like, I know someone had on their bucket list, repair their relationship with their mom, right?
Mm,
That doesn't cost anything. It costs some emotional stuff,
mhm,
capital, and it costs some time capital, but it doesn't cost money, right? Or even like reconnecting with somebody that you've gotten unconnected with.
mm,
There's no reason you can't maintain relationships with anybody you want to these days, super cheap, super free. I remember my best friend and I, we've been friends for over 35 years, and he was serving in the military in Germany in the 90s, and I would call him once a month to maintain that relationship, and it would cost me like $100 to
mm.
call long distance for an hour, right?
Right.
To Germany. And then I was like, my ex-wife was like, well, that's your fun money. That's your spending. That's your budget. You've
You
blown your budget on
budget
one
it
phone
in.
call, right? But we don't have to do that anymore, right? We don't have to. We have to. That's like twice this. That's twice the cost of my cell bill now, right? My cell phone bill.
Absolutely.
So we have access, just like we're doing right now. We have access to maintain those relationships. So put those things on your list. If you don't want to raise your retirement fund like I did to go out and travel the world. I mean, it is your list, right? And you can
Mm.
put whatever you want on it.
I know so many times we're judged in life. Don't let this be one of the things that people judge you for either. You just have to go for it. And I love that you said that because, some people that are opposed to doing it, either because they associate it with, you're going to die, or
Right.
they associate it with, well, I don't have the money to travel the world, or they associate it with something else. I love that you mentioned that because it could just be, well, I love my work, but I'm not helping anybody. I'm going to end it, start my own nonprofit. Or it
Right.
could be, I want to, I don't know, do a family project where all of us, I want to do one big thing with my family that promotes this. Or it could be a little bit of everything. It's okay to have
Right.
selfish things on there and have, unselfish things on there. It's okay. I love that because the whole topic of this show is giving starts with you, right? And honestly, burnout and unhappy people are everywhere. And I
Yep.
think we have to remember how to get back to it's, the notion of it's okay to do something for myself. Like I know, like we get it now at this age, but when I was growing up, nobody told me that. I was like,
Right.
oh no, are you kidding? Like I'm going to seem conceited or I'm going to be too selfish or, oh my God. But inside I was craving that. I'm like, what about me? And it's okay. It's okay. Like we were talking about how I'm going to be 50 this year. And it's, I wish I had realized these things, in my 30s but it happens when it happens, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
who's to say, if you don't take that, if you don't want to be named a slacker and you don't want to take what Harvard is offering, for example, you can do it at our age. You can
Yep.
do it. And sometimes it even means more. It just depends. So how do you get those things crossed off? So the first step is to write them down.
Yes. Yeah. Write them down. I mean, yeah, it's weird because at least in American culture, if we write things down, it's like boom, that's it. Like that's the Bible. All of a sudden, that you can't change it. And so, highly recommend people using paper and pen, not putting it on the computer,
Oh,
because
yeah.
then you can put it someplace where you can see it every day. Right? If it's in your laptop, you don't see it. It's just
I
another
say
document.
put it on a shirt and just wear that
Oh,
every morning.
mine's on my mirror in the bathroom, so every morning I have to see it, right? But the great thing about pen and pencil is that you can cross things off, and then you can add things too, right? You leave enough margins so that it's ever changing. It doesn't have to be this, concrete thing that's like, okay, if I can't do it, I'm, get frustrated. And yeah, it can be fluid. It's okay for it to be fluid. And I think the other thing, you kind of mentioned it, I don't tell, I mean, I tell people what I'm doing all the time, but I tell people, don't share your bucket list with just anybody.
Mm,
You need to make sure that you're sharing that list because of something you just said, is that there's a lot of people are doubters. A lot of people still live in that culture where it's, like you said, it's, they look at it as like what I'm
you're a
doing
slacker.
as,
Yeah.
right, a slacker, or I'm a narcissist because I'm doing my own things and I'm, and my partner's sitting at home, and I'm
Yeah, how
out traveling the
selfish, right?
world.
Oh my
Right,
goodness.
right,
And you're not taking care of the family. Like,
right.
honestly, people
Yeah,
would say that all the time. But it's like,
yeah,
I'd like to differ. I'm taking more care of my family because I'm actually happy,
right.
you know?
It's the old airplane
Yes.
analogy, right? You got to put the mask on for yourself first, because if you don't put your mask on, then you're not going to be able to help the other person next to you.
Mm.
And you can do that without being like completely detrimental to your relationships, right? And you can do that in a way that, like you said, brings, when you're happy, then you get to spread that, and it just infectious. A story I tell is, came back from walking the Camino de Santiago, and I went into the office, and I had boundaries with my social media and people I worked with and the students I worked with and stuff. So lots of people didn't see what I was doing. And so I took my phone into one of the persons who I enjoyed being with the most in my office. And I showed her this reel on Instagram that I made that was just me and selfies. It was just like a slideshow of selfies of me and all the people that I had met along the way. And after she was done looking at it, she said, "I've never seen you that happy.
Wow.
And in 4 years, you've never seen me that happy." You know, I've probably not been doing a good job if in 4 years you have not been seeing me that happy. And that's when I decided I was going to quit my job and take a gap year and make myself joyful again and have some joy. Right. I think there's somewhat of a difference between happiness and joy. Joy's ongoing. Happiness
Oh,
is
yeah.
momentary, but joy's ongoing, and it's a mindset that you have to embrace to be fully able to give to other people. You really can't give to others and not have joy in your heart, because then
No.
you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and life is too short to worry about everything else. Like I love how you say we sell our hours and we sell our
Mm,
time. Like, I haven't heard it quite be said that way before. And it just paints this really clear picture. And it's true, we're all on borrowed time. How much of that time do you want to give away? And you really
yeah.
want to give to yourself. And even though some people might think, okay, like for me, for example, I'm married, I've been married 26 years, and I would do, the travel around the world, but my spouse may not really want to do it. But he's the first one to say, you know what? If you got to go, you got to go. Like, I'll be
Yep.
here when you get back. But my family would be like, what, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, how could you leave? And I'm like, I know him well enough that if he says go, not that I would kind of get permission, but do you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh yeah.
it's fascinating to me. And I come from a very old-fashioned immigrant family,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean, I don't know. But then as they get older, they're like, I understand. They get close, their
Yeah.
friends start to die. No, it's true. Like
Yeah.
their friends start to die, and they're like, well, I don't, all my friends are gone. They're like, do everything you want now, and maybe
Yeah.
it's too late for them, but I don't know, let's not wait for that moment.
Yeah. I'm super lucky. My partner and I still see each other as individual people.
Yes.
And so we
Important.
yeah, and when I was married for 25 years, that was not a thing, right?
Mm.
I mean, we were a conglomeration of two people, and
Mm.
so I don't think I was my best during that because I wasn't able to be me.
Mm. Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that I have someone in my life now that sees me as an individual, knows, right? So going back to the Camino, um, so you get a certificate of completion when you're done, which is really
Yes.
cool. It's very Western.
Oh, that's awesome.
um, and so you have to walk 100 kilometers, just 100 kilometers, or bike 200 kilometers to get the certificate. So
Okay.
as you're walking along, you're staying at the hostels and you're going to eat. They stamp you a little credential
Oh,
book.
that's awesome. Okay.
You turn it in at the end, and then so they calculate how far you've gone and all that kind of stuff. And so when I told my partner, I said, I'm going to do this. She's like, I don't think I want to do that, because she's not, she does, she didn't want to stay in the bunk beds with, 25 other people and, share showers and, so she was like,
And
I don't
that's
think I want
okay.
to.
And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she wound up deciding that she was celebrating her 50th, as you're about to do, and she wanted to do some solo traveling.
Okay.
So for about 2.5 weeks, uh, while I was walking, she went to Milan, or excuse me, she went to Madrid,
Nice.
Sevilla, Barcelona. She traveled around Spain by herself, staying in these nice hotels and doing all those things. And then the last 5 days of the walk, which would encompass, enough to get a certificate, she joined me, and
Oh,
we
that's
got
great.
yeah. So it was something we can claim we did together, but like I still have my time where I was out doing my thing and being who I needed to be along the walk. And we have joint friends now that we met on the Camino. Was in Costa Rica a month ago, crashed one of our pilgrim friends' wedding together. I mean, it's, so we got to be two individuals,
Mm.
but we shared something at the same time. And I just think
That's perfect experience. Like honestly,
oh
that
yeah,
a bit of everything. Like when you
yeah.
choose the items on your list, is it always emotionally driven? Like, is it something that is going to, I don't know, affect you in some way? Because I think that would be it for me. I'd have to, like, I want to feel like this. Where can I get that feeling from? Something I can't
Yeah.
get through work.
Yeah. So for me, a lot of things on my bucket list are communal, what I call communal. So like I have a, no pun intended, burning desire to go to Burning Man, right? I mean, Burning Man is something I really want to do. I want to do it with my two best friends. Again, something my partner's probably not good. Like she's interested, but like sand in every crack of your body is not something she's really interested in.
Yes.
So yeah, so my things kind of wind up being a little bit communal, whether I'm doing them with people or I'm going to something that is communal in nature, just like the Camino was. I knew I was going to be able to build friendships all around the world. It's part of the reason I wanted to do it. I wanted to get out of my bubble, meet some people, and now I have friends, basically all over the world. So mine winds up being very communal. But I think I think it goes back more to the joy. What's going to bring you joy? If it's not going to bring you joy, right? Like my one friend who had repairing her relationship with her mom. I'm like, is that going to bring you joy? And she's like, well, yeah, that would make me the happiest person in the world. I'm like, well, then put it on there and let's go. Like, what do you need to do? So that's the qualifier to me, is what brings you joy, right? I think that's the most important thing.
Mm. I love that, and some people might argue that a bucket list is like a to-do list, but oh my God, they're so different. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
like to do is like, oh, it's a chore and it's something you have to, like, who's to say you can't write one thing on your list and then once you get to that one thing, all the other stuff comes into light.
Right.
You don't have to have it all planned out. That's the whole point. I mean, it's great to put, a bunch of things on there, but it's all like you're in Italy right now and you probably have some sort of plan of where you want to go, whether it's, secure or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But while you're there, you may think of something else, or something else might come up that'll kind of pull you into a different direction. Whereas
Yeah.
to-do lists are so like, you know, you feel like a failure if you don't do every single one of them, right?
Yeah. So that I ran into that. I went to Thailand in 2005 and 2006 after the tsunami to do some relief work. And 2006, I went more as a tourist to put my dollars back in the community. And I went to a temple that has like these 1,200 steps to get up to the top of this mountain. And there's the foot of the Buddha on top of this mountain. And suppose it's like just an imprint that looks like a foot. And I started going up this, and it's not like stairs, it's more like a ladder more than anything. And I think I got to like 900.
Here.
I got to like 900 steps, and I'm like, I can't. I had to go back down. Like, there's no way I can complete this. And my legs were wobbling and shaking, and I was out of breath, and I just couldn't do it. I was out of shape, not prepared mentally for what I was going to do. It was just 300 steps away, and I still couldn't
But you did
muster enough to go do
900.
it.
You did
I
900.
know, I know, but I came back down. I came back down, and I told myself, I'm never going to start something like that again unless I can finish it.
Mm.
And that sounds good, except for the fact that it made me paralyzed from the standpoint that I just didn't do anything. Right. I mean, I wouldn't try anything because I was
Oh,
so afraid of not completing it. Right. It's like you say, talking about a list, right? If I put it
yes.
on there and I don't cross it off, am I a failure? It's like, I got stuff on my list I don't know if I'll ever do or not, but I hope I do. And one day I might decide, okay, I'm going to do that. Right. But that's why for me, it was important to do something big so that I could cross something off and go, okay, I know I can do this. Right. And again, the big may be learning how to cook pad thai. It may be,
Yes.
that may be something big for somebody, and that's okay. It's not about the grandeur of the item. It's about, does it, again, going back to, does it bring you joy?
And we're hoping that we can cross them all off. And that's what we're talking about today, is getting them crossed off, not just putting them down. But there's something said for having also that dream and something to look forward to. To me, especially during the pandemic,
Oh yeah.
dreams is what kept me going. So even if I couldn't do some of the things, I really set my heart out. I had all the intentions of going back to Guatemala a couple of times during the pandemic. That didn't happen. And it just thinking about, okay, preparing for the next time, at least it gets you through that hump of, it's okay. But when you don't have any aspirations like that, whether it's a bucket list or you want to call it something else, life can get like a groundhog day. It can
Yep.
just get so repetitive. You wake up, it's 20 years later, and now you've got some chronic illness and you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's sad. So I really want people to give themselves permission to try. And like you
Right.
said, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be this grandeur, like put some really cool, big, adventurous thing, but then put something more attainable, right?
Right. Well, I think the dream boards or the vision boards, I think those have a place, and they're a good spot for that in your well-being. For me, a bucket list item, you need to be able to check it off, right? You need to be able to cross it off.
Mhm.
So like the example I give, and I get pushback from this all the time, but it's the example I give is, I'm a huge fan of Saturday Night Live. I love Saturday Night Live. I've watched it since 1977 when I was 7 years old and probably shouldn't have been. I love the show. And so I have had actual dreams where I have said, live from New York at Saturday Night Live, on stage in this cold open sketch, in front of the cameras. And so that's a dream I have. But the realism side of that tells me that, there's less than 1,000 people in the world that have ever said those words on TV, live on TV like that. And only less than 1,000 people. And for me to be able to do that, I have to be like Tom Brady or The Rock or, you know, uh, Gwyneth Paltrow or whoever, right? I mean, I would have to be like something major. So I'd have to do like a million things before I'd even get to that point of being able to do it. So that's like a dream, and it's nice to have, and I like thinking about it every once in a while. But a difference is like something I do have on my bucket list, which is I want to be an extra on a Star Wars or a TV show or
Love
movie,
it.
right?
Yeah, it's
And
great.
that's something that I could probably obtain if I tried really hard, if I set my mind to it. I know some people who know some people who know some people. I know the business a little bit. I could probably get into being on the stage, and you could put a stormtrooper helmet on me and I'll shoot the laser gun and I'll miss everybody. It's fine. I don't have to be seen. I just want to be able to say I've been on the set. I could get that done, right? It's on there. It's not
That'd be
like
pretty
something
cool.
I'm actively pursuing, but I think one day I'm just going to be like, all right, let's do it. I'm gonna make this happen, and I probably can. And so that, I think, is something for me, is that I think that the stuff you put on your list should be obtainable, because it is something you want to cross off, right? So when it's a dream board or a vision board, it's just like, oh, those are nice things, and putting my intentions out there and everything, but you really need, because if you have a list and you can't cross anything off, like you said, that would just get frustrating.
Yeah. But having said that, you could try to like get somebody to be interested in doing like a documentary or something. And you could be like, Roger Williams Netflix documentary on how to get all the bucket list stuff crossed off. And you may just get connections to do the Saturday Night Live. You just don't know.
Don't know, but I'm sure I think I know.
So you got the tattoos, you're in Italy, all of these things. So what else is on your list? I've got to ask you.
Jeez. Yeah, I'm going to be crossing off, visiting all 50 states this year. Once I get back home, I have 48. So I only have 2 more left. So
very good.
I've got North Dakota and Alaska. So
nice.
Yeah. So actually, a group of Communal friends, we're all going to go to Alaska together. Then it's going to be the last state, and I'm going to cross off and we have a little party.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm currently writing a book. It's been in my head for a long time, and I'm trying to get it out. And so that's kind of why I'm in Matera, Italy, which no one's ever heard of. So I'm here trying to write a book. I have been for the past month or so. So I'm trying to get that out of my head and get that done. And then something else I'm looking at doing is in the States, we have the Pacific Coast Trail, the Continental Divide, and the Appalachian Trail, which are all hike throughs that take multiple months to do. And after walking the Communal, I decided I don't want to do that anymore. But they do have on those trails what they call trail angels, who kind of set up little camps for the hikers when they come through to give them food or medical attention or fix equipment or that kind of thing. So I'm going to try to see if I can't put together a trail angel camp on each one of someplace on each one of those trails for a week, and get some other people to join me and help me do that and stuff. So
that'll be different.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're having a lot of fun.
I am. I'm happy. I'm happy and full joy. So that's the main point. And
you're right smack in the middle of it, right? As we're doing our interview.
Yes. I'm just about in the middle of my adult gap years, as I call it. So I've got about 5 more weeks here in Europe, and then and a trip to Israel, and going to be heading to London before I go home, and then I go back to the real world and keep trying to do stuff.
But you know what? When you go back to the real world, you would have learned so much more about who you are, about how you want the rest of your life to be, and you'd be more grateful for the things that you have too. And it's a different, I don't know, I think every single thing you cross off, it's just another stepping stone, right, in your life. Just learn so much about everybody, like the world, about yourself.
Well, there's the satisfaction of knowing that I completed those things, right? I mean, getting knuckle tattoos, that's not a big deal. It took me an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and cost me a couple $100. But it's like I'm fulfilling something that I've always wanted to do, whether it's knuckle tattoos or write a book or whatever it is. And that makes my self-worth that much more. And so when I do, like you said, if I have to go back to selling my labor, I'm going to make some requests.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not gonna just accept whatever they give me. I'm going to make some requests and say, here's how I'm going to work, and here's what I expect, and here are some boundaries I'm going to set. And, so I think that having more self-worth is what's really going to come out of this journey for me, is that I'll feel better about myself and more secure about who I am and who I want to present myself to be in the world.
I love that, and then the boundaries come up and the priorities, and so many things change. I love it. And, I'm sure I know you have that boundary with your students and with what you're doing in your own life, but I'm sure you're going to be sharing some of it. And do you know how many people are going to listen to your story and be inspired? And that's exactly what you want.
I hope so.
And it's great. It's going to be so great. Maybe once you finish your book, you can come back on if you like, and you can share it with us.
Okay, I will. It's so interesting because because after I say I've gone to the Camino, everyone's like, "Oh, is your book about the Camino?" It's like, no, my book's not about the Camino. And I sit here and talk about the bucket list stuff. And it's like, "Oh, is your book about the bucket list?" I was like, "No, no, it's not, not at all."
Hey,
So,
as long as it's not about politics or business, we're good to go. You can.
yes, we're good. We're good. Neither one of those things for sure.
Do you have any tips on people crossing off their things? Is there anything that we didn't talk about today that, I don't know, maybe will help some people, or just pushing them to make this decision, that they should come
Yeah.
first?
Yeah, get a piece of paper out and just put bucket list on the top of it and just leave it there if you don't have ideas, because that'll give you space when you do go, "Oh, I've always wanted to do that. That should be on my bucket list. Where's that piece of paper?"
Mm,
And so I think that's really important. Like we said earlier, share your list with people that will lovingly hold you accountable. And
yes.
instead of wanting to be competitive or be Debbie Downers, you definitely want to share your list with people that will love you through that list. That's super important. Make it definitely make it obtainable. Make your items attainable, because if you have a list and you can't cross anything off, then that would get frustrating. It would be
Depressing.
frustrating for me. Yeah. And as far as I mean, I do tell people to talk to other people, ask other people what's on their list.
Mm,
And I think it's a good conversation to have with people, especially like people you love, especially people you care for. But just it's a great conversation to have. Kind of just like my purpose for the podcast that I have is that I just want people to start thinking about the process of
mm.
why did people put things on their list? How did they cross them off? Those are questions that you need to ask yourself, um, as you're developing that list. And so then the other thing is, wow, so much. Just think about the things that you're already into, right? Like whatever, like my friend wants to do the cooking, and then I have another friend that he plays golf, which I can't stand. I can't stand golf. I'm never going to play it. But he wants to do a 50 state trip where he plays golf in every state in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay, great, fantastic. That's his whole list, right? He doesn't have anything else on his list
And
except
you're going to keep them
accomplishing that.
accountable, right?
Yeah, lovingly, of course. Even though I can't stand golf, I'm like, all right, bro, go for it, man. Um, so we talk about it. We talk about different courses in different states and where he wants to play and all that kind of stuff. And it's fun to talk about that stuff. But what is it that you're already into? What do you already like? What is, for me, like the Star Wars thing, like I'm a huge nerd. So that's something. And I also don't think people should be afraid to putting down things that they won't want to buy for themselves, right? I'm a collector, and I have a comic book collection that dates back to 1958, and it's missing 4 issues. So whenever I go to different cities, I search out the comic book stores and try to find those issues that I'm missing, and that becomes my memento for my trips that I take.
Again, that's an emotional connection you have with
Yeah.
those. It's not like you're putting
Yes.
TV on a list, or do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know, so for me, it's a couple of things that you can really get to know somebody by is what they put on their bucket list and
Mhm.
their book and CD collection.
Okay.
You can really
What's a
tell.
CD? What's a CD?
You can really, it's true. If you go to somebody's house for the first time or whatever, you see their books, or if they have books, and you can already kind of get a sense of who they are. You know what I
Sure.
mean? You can. And I think the bucket list idea, it's similar too. You can
Yeah.
really tell. And you never know, maybe somebody's got something on theirs that you never thought of, but sounds like the coolest thing. And you can put it on yours too if you like.
Yeah, yeah. And again, going back to my show, and that's one of the other things that I hope listeners get out of it. Right, I interview one guest each episode, and I ask them about one item that they've crossed off their list. So we just talk about that one item, and I've had all different kinds of people on there. We had one woman that is an artist, and she wanted to raise $1 million for
Oh,
charity through her art, and she accomplished that goal like 4 or 5 years or something. It was crazy. It took her barely any time. I have
amazing.
another guest that he collects autographs, And so I asked him, what's the one that you always, what was the top on your list? And he said, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So like, so it's, the great thing
Great.
about my guests on the show is just like other people's bucket list. I don't judge them. If you're passionate about it and it brought you joy, then, and you want to share it with people, let's bring it on. So,
And it's so
yeah,
contagious, like even
yeah,
just hearing, even if it's not your thing, like you're the friend with the golf, you can
right.
just pick up on the joy that he has, and it
Yes.
still makes you feel good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I love talking to him about. I hate golf. I love talking to him about it, right? I mean, because he's passionate about it, and it brings him joy, and he's having fun with it. And it's like, all right, man, let's talk about that. I love talking to him about that. Yeah.
There's so many awful things in the world that we have to grab onto these things that just make us laugh and make us feel positive things, and it's so important to have that balance, I think.
Yes.
Feel. Yeah, so where can we find you? Your
Uh,
podcast again is Crossing It Off, correct?
yes. You can find it just about anywhere you listen to podcasts, even on Facebook mobile, I think now. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, you can find it anywhere you get podcasts. It's a weekly show, and I'm thankfully part of one of the things on my bucket list is to make sure I drop an episode every week. So I've been able to accomplish that. It's not, the nice thing too about it is it's not about me. It's about my guests and them telling their story. Although I am in I have an upcoming episode that I will be the guest, and somebody else is going to be
That's great.
interviewing me. So yeah. So the couple that I crashed their wedding in Costa Rica, I'm going to interview them about having a destination wedding, and then they're going to interview me about crashing their wedding. So
That's awesome.
that'll be fun. And then you can find me and see some of the stuff that I'm doing, and get reminders about the show on Instagram at crosser.offer.
I love it. So within the next 7 days, what are you going to be doing? We need to live vicariously through you the next week. Are you in Italy for much longer?
I'm in Italy for another month, except on Sunday.
Okay.
Except this Sunday, I don't know when this episode of yours drops, so hopefully it won't be a spoiler for anybody. But I am traveling to Israel for 4 days to go be a roadie for a friend of mine's band.
That's cool. That's cool. Wow, that's great.
Yeah,
Love
yeah,
it.
I'm
Love
excited.
it.
I'm excited.
Keep enjoying your life, and
Thanks.
keep inspiring people. And I'm so glad we touched base, with this topic, because I don't know, I love talking about travel. Like, I'm a travel fanatic too, and
Yeah.
don't get to go nearly to as many places as I would like so far. But we'll have to compare bucket lists. I think I'm gonna keep adding to mine, but
Yeah, please do. It's because I would just want everyone to experience the joy that I'm experiencing, and I think that's the most important thing. So,
absolutely.
no, you keep doing that, and I hope your listeners do that too.
Yeah, as soon as you cross off the first or second thing, you'll be like, why did I wait so
That's
long?
right. Yep,
And you
for
just,
sure.
and I don't know, just talking about it today is getting me, right back into, I love doing things differently than other people.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so
good.
much for taking the
Oh,
time and talking to me at, almost 1 a.m. now. And
no problem.
I appreciate that so much. It's great.
Yeah, I'm very honored that you had me, and I wish you all success.
Thank you. Have a great, safe rest of your bucket crosser offer list thingy.
Thanks. I will do my best.
If you're looking for clarity on your passion, sign up for my free 5-day email challenge today on my website at www.neliahut.com. That's www.neliahutt.com to sign up now. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe or leave a review. See you next week on the Giving Starts With You podcast.